And sometimes that's it plays out in a negative way because they are not used to how to handle things in a new country. So they experience all these kinds of emotions, and it is important to get help, especially under the crisis that we are having right now. It is important that people seek out mental health. But I'm gonna explain more of that in a little bit. So first of all, if for some reason you happen to have these symptoms, like I said earlier, you need to look for some kind of help, right? You need to look out for assistance. So first, it is important to identify what those needs are. You need to identify what do you need to, I mean, what you need to seek out in order to receive the proper help. So it is important that, especially if someone who doesn't have these symptoms and witnesses another person who does experience these symptoms, it's very important to understand that the person is living a situation that is not the best, and the best thing to do is not to judge, and especially it is important to validate their feelings. It is important to not be judgmental because it can happen to anyone. It can happen to anyone, and no one is exempt from experiencing something like this. So, first, the person who is watching, they must watch for the symptoms, identify if the person needs, uh, those services. You need to validate without judgment. And lastly, you need to link. What does that link mean? Well, connect to the person to the necessary help, whether that is medical, legal, or community help. Okay, next. So I always teach my clients, by the way, I see adolescents. So whenever I see adolescents, teenagers, and they come to my office, and they seem to be very agitated. They seem to be out of place. So I first of all, I teach them. I tell them to start breathing, which is very simple. I mean, breathing is always part of like what we do, right? We breathe every day. It's like it's automatic. However, when we are in a crisis, sometimes we forget that we have to breathe, that we need to ground ourselves. So I teach this technique to my clients, which is called the 478, or also called the square breathing, which is you, for example, you inhale 4 seconds. So I'm gonna do it like this. I'm gonna inhale 4 seconds, and then I hold for 7 seconds, and then I release for 8 seconds. So that's the first step. Whenever you are in a situation that you might think you might be experiencing anxiety or a panic attack, it is very important to breathe. If I cannot stress that enough, I want you to understand that breathing is the first step before seeking out for mental health services. Then we have another technique which is called the grounding technique. And basically, you are going to be sitting, you're going to sit in a comfortable position, whether you are in a couch, in a chair, or anywhere. So just sit, and you're going to count backwards. So you're going to close your eyes, and you're going to think, you're going to do a countdown. For example, you're going to be like 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, but you're going to do it slowly, like 5, breathe, and then breathe out, 4, and then one more time, breathe in, 3, breathe out, 2, breathe out, 1. And that, ladies and gentlemen, it's a great way to ground yourself. Grounding basically means to be on the ground, obviously. So before you seek out any kind of services, you need to check your body, scan your body, and count backwards. And another thing I wanted to talk about is to keep like a diary. Why is it important to keep a diary? A diary is important because you write down whatever is going on in your life. Sometimes when we write out, we feel that release of tension. We feel that we're starting to feel more comfortable with ourselves. So it is very important to write out what you feel, what you experience, whether that is good, whether it's bad, anything. Just write it out, and it's going to help a lot. It's very important to just, instead of preoccupying for something that may or may not happen, it's important to um, take you know responsibility for who you are. It is important to use the necessary tools that you may have at your disposal, which I'm going to talk about in a little bit. But it's very important to write down whatever you have to do, whatever you need. I'm sorry, whatever you experience. And last but not least, it is important to stop watching news. And that I'm going to be very strict about it, because watching the news does affect mental health. So limiting the amount of news sources then or news outlets, it's important that you limit the kind of information that you watch or read on TV or maybe on your tablet, anything like that. Please stop watching the news, because that really causes mental health impairments. So just like the diagram, the drawing here, as you can see, the individual is showing how to breathe, which is pretty much simple, but it is important to keep it always conscious. Like whenever you are in a situation, it's important to breathe in and breathe out at all times. And sometimes, yes, we forget, but it's important to remind ourselves that breathing is our best help in a situation, in a crisis. Okay, so some emotional resources that we have here. It's important. I would say that one of the most important things when someone is under a situation experiencing a crisis, we have a line called 988, which is a number that you can call whenever you are in a crisis, and they will answer both in English and in Spanish. So you don't have to worry about any language barrier. It is important that you call them when you are trying to, calm yourself down, soothe yourself down. It is important to call them. So that's a free line here in Maryland. You can call them. I'm not sure if it's nationwide, but I know that in Maryland you can call their number and they will answer. It is a 24-hour service, so you can call at any time you want in case you are in a crisis. We also have community clinics, for example, RHSA, health centers, etc. Um, there's some legal assistance as well. I don't know the acronyms, but you can, copy this down in case that you want some legal orientation with your legal immigration status. And last but not least, we also have local organizations and in and community networks. Okay, let's see next. So I'm going to talk a little bit about how it impacts the immigrant person, so the person who has migrated to this country. So first of all, when someone by any, I mean, for any reason, they might be separated from the family, especially children, as you can see in the picture here. So it's a constant fear, unfortunately, and no one really knows what that could, cause in the long run. So it's like uncertain, and it's important to remind ourselves that, whether you are an immigrant, or even if you are legal or illegal, it's important to remind ourselves that nothing is black and white. And even though some people may portray it as such, things are not always white, I mean, black and white, in those terms. So children may experience anxiety when being separated from their parents, from their loved ones during the deportation. Children may experience, um, for example, problems with their sleep. They might have poor sleep patterns. They might be hypervigilant, and they also may experience some selective mutism, which is basically when a child doesn't speak because he or she may be afraid of, that someone may hurt them. So they might basically go mute. They might not say anything. Um, and yes, and last but not least, there is a cultural cultural shock, and that affects the 1.5 generation in this country, in the United States. And most of that is responsible. Adults are responsible for that, and it's I cannot stress enough that the impact of immigration in general may be, to some extent or to a large extent, very harmful for many individuals, and children are the most affected, unfortunately. And people might say, well, I mean, why do they come with their children to this country? It's illegal. But again, we don't know all the reasons, and we can just understand. We don't judge. We cannot judge, and simply provide services to those who need it. Um, whether you are a therapist, a nurse, a doctor, or anyone in particular. I mean, we just provide those services, and we don't judge. So, some self regulation techniques, which I briefly talked about in another slide, but I'm gonna, summarize some of them. Like I said, the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 grounding technique that I talked about, the breathing that you can tell yourself affirmation when you are here. Okay, so when you are in this country and you are scared that something might happen to you, you can always say, "I'm here. I feel safe. I'm here. I feel safe." And that's how you're gonna self-regulate. You're gonna keep telling yourself that you're safe, and in that sense, you're gonna feel more relieved because you're going to gain more control. The key here, you guys, and everyone who's watching, it is key. It is very important that you self-regulate. If you're not regulated, anything bad can happen. So the breathing is one. The grounding technique is another, and affirmations. Always, 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 please use affirmations. And also, it's important to establish some routines. For example, when you eat, when you go to sleep, when you move around, exercise is very important whenever you're trying to self regulate. So, if you can set a time for you to go to bed, for example, at 10 p.m. at night, please make sure that you follow that throughout the week. If you're going to eat, for example, lunch at 1 p.m., stick to that. Don't move it. Don't put it aside. If you're gonna eat 1 p.m., do it. Same thing with exercise. So when you establish a routine, your body gets used to that that pattern. So more likely to feel more regulated. Okay? So breathing is one, box breathing is one, grounding techniques another, and affirmations. I'm here, I am safe. I'm here, I feel safe. And the routines. Okay? And I think this is the last slide, which is basically a summary of the other one. So if you are in a crisis, please call 988, which is a 24/7 Spanish English service. You can also go to or attend HRSA clinics, which they provide services for people who don't have a legal status, and you can also go to churches, schools, or community networks who support or provide some emotional or logistic support. And I think that concludes my presentation. Oh no, one more thing. Yes, one final message. So first, uncertainty doesn't define your courage. Uncertainty doesn't define your courage. Taking care of yourself is not being weak. That's what it means. Taking care of yourself doesn't make yourself weak. It makes you strong. And look out for help. It's an act of courage. You're not alone. There are communities and resources of hope. And that concludes the presentation for today. Kali, I cannot hear you.
Okay.
Okay, I can hear you now, I think. No, I still can hear you. Something happened to your mic.
¿Y ahora? ¿Y ahora?
Ya, ahora sí, creo.
Ahora sí. Oh, can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you better now.
Oh, okay. Thank you, Cristobal. I know this information is very important. We are doing this bilingual, pero esta información que nos trae Cristobal es súper importante. And I have some questions, Cristobal. I know you've been working with the community, and I
Mhm.
have this question. I know how do you approach therapists when a client has lost trust in like institutions or like professional? Because sometimes they don't trust. They don't. It's very hard sometimes to get into to a therapist.
Okay, so in my case, I work for a high school. I work in a high school, and we work for an organization, and usually our clients, most of them are immigrants, obviously, but they come through a process. So whenever we see that they need services, we receive like a referral, and once we have the referral in our hands, we call them, in the school. But to answer your question, it sometimes it's hard to, especially for immigrant people, to trust someone who they don't know, because that's you don't know if that someone is gonna call the police or is gonna call ICE. And so it's important that you if you get to meet the client or the person, you need to build that rapport. You need to build that bond with the client. And the information that you provided in the presentation, basically it's trustworthy, so people who they can either call 988, or they can go to those places that you mentioned, and they can trust them. They're not gonna you know um, call the police or anything like that. But it's very hard, especially right now in this country. The crisis, it's bad. So but hopefully we as therapists can provide those services to to immigrants.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Also, Cristobal, like I know, like you mentioned, so but I know how we can make how we can make mental health conversations more natural and accepting, the Latino communities.
Yeah, it's that question I get asked a lot. So basically, unfortunately, in the Latino community, there's a stigma that mental health is for crazy people.
Hmm.
So basically, crazy people go to a psychologist or a therapist or whatever, and we need to teach the Latino population, our community, that mental health it's just like any other kind of service, any kind of help. For example, if Kali, if you need to go to a doctor because you fell and your leg hurts, so you go to a doctor and they give you medicine, right? So the same thing. I mean, when someone goes to a mental health, they need to understand that first they're not crazy. That's not what we are there for, you know, by the way. And it's important that they understand that mental health it's just like any other kind of health. Once once they understood that, once we are able to talk about it more freely, hopefully people will start understanding and realizing how important it is. But it's education. That's all I can say. It's a lot of education.
Yeah, definitely. It's very important also to look for resources, right? Sometimes some people they
Yes.
don't know where are the resources available, and also, if you have any questions about resources, I'm also, Concaly, we connect different resources, so we also provide resources because I also I work in the community, and I had the experience working with many of the clients that I've been served. So also, Cristobal, I know some people, I would like to provide a message. For example, what message would you like to leave today for those who are struggling emotionally by having asked for help yet?
Okay. Yes. Well, first of all, I think it's important that people understand that they're not alone in this situation. It's important that they reach out. I know it's hard. I know it's hard because of many different reasons and different. I encourage people to seek out help. I encourage them to talk to a trusted individual, to a trusted, professional, and remember, um, uh, and remember that you're not alone in this. And we need to bring this up. We need to talk about mental health. We need to talk about what's going on in order for us to help you. So yes, you might be afraid of the consequences, maybe, but remember that you're not in this alone. Other people are also struggling, and it just takes one step. That's all it takes. One step to make the difference. And like Kali was saying, we do have those resources here. We do have those resources that will help you take that step. So reach out, reach, sorry, reach out to us, and you're gonna see the difference. Believe
Definitely.
me.
Yeah, todas las personas que están viendo, yo sé, estamos haciendo este programa porque hay muchos jóvenes, a veces no les gusta hablar el idioma. So today we're trying to do bilingual. But also, Cristobal, I know, like, what advice would you give to those young professional who wants to work like you doing? Because I know, this is something that I always, um, when people ask me like, like I want to go to school, but like I know for you to become a therapist, what advice would you give to those young professional who wants to work in the mental health?
Well, first of all, if you decided to become a therapist, congratulations. I must congratulate you because it is a very service to others field. If you're in this field to help others, this is the right place for you. I'm not gonna sugarcoat it. It's not gonna be easy, but it's gonna pay. It's gonna pay out in the end. You're gonna see the rewards, and not just saying money wise. No, I'm also talking about how well you're gonna feel when you're feeling when you're helping someone. So for those of you young therapists who maybe have graduated or thinking about, you know, taking studying this profession, and embark in this career, please, it is important that you need to have the passion to help others. Yes, you're not going to be able to help everyone, that's for sure. We can't help everyone, but I'm sure that you're going to make a difference in the lives of those who need it the most. So that's my advice to all of you. This is a great career, a wonderful career. And if you really feel the need to help, this is the right place for you.
Thank you,
Mhm.
Cristobal. Gracias. And also, like, people gonna want to know how we can get in touch with Cristobal. How can you be at the, how they can contact you directly to get us your service?
Well, I mean, the fastest way is through Concaly, obviously, because
Okay.
obviously I'm affiliated to Concaly. You can also look me up at as Cristobal Fernandez on Facebook and Twitter as Doctor Psiconauta. I'm sorry, Instagram as Doctor Psiconauta. If you wanna, seek out for services or you wanna just talk about mental health in general, I'm there to help. Yep. Yes.
Yeah. So yes, definitely you can contact directly to us for if you wanna talk to Cristobal. I know Cristobal been helping to many uh, um, young people and young
Hmm.
community, but also like the family together too. Like if he wants to
Yes.
have a one-on-one appointment with Cristobal, he's here to support. So don't feel that you cannot afford. So Cristobal had different package for those who are not able to afford, and also if you have any difficult time, so we find the resources for you too. But yeah, thank you, Cristobal. And also, last word. I know I like to ask this in one word. How would you describe your mission as a psychology and as you, the founder of Doctor Psiconauta?
One word. That's a hard one, but I would say service. Service to
So,
others.
so those two words.
I do.
Well, yeah, thank you, Cristobal. I know we probably have some so we're gonna be responding to those message and our social media, and also we gonna sharing the information so how we can connect. But yeah, we're here every Monday, so we bring a special guest, and thank you, Cristobal, for providing this information to those communities, especially here in the area, the DMV area, because I
Mhm.
know we've been going through a lot of things in these moments, but we need someone like you to promote, to help us with the message, and with those exercises that also the people can do it at home, but also like providing the resources. and here we are. Actually, I'm going to invite to all of you, some of people there, if they want to come. I mean, we're going to share some information in our social media, also for legal protections. If you want some support for legal protections, we also have the resources for you. So vamos a tener una presentación este jueves, así que vamos a estar compartiendo ahí en las redes sociales. Este jueves tenemos un programa también donde estaremos, si quieres, eso va a ser más privado, pero si quieres información sobre protección legal, estaremos compartiendo ahí la información en nuestras redes sociales, donde también a veces no sabemos nuestra comunidad que puedan tener una consultación más económica, porque a veces pues nos quieren cobrar súper caro un abogado, pero también tenemos esos recursos, así que no te lo pierdas. Este jueves estaremos compartiendo información a las 8 de la noche. Si estás interesado, envíanos un mensaje para compartirte eso. Gracias, Cristóbal, una vez más por estar acá en nuestro programa de Concaly Emprende, Concaly Aprende. Así que estamos acá en este nuevo programa que queremos dar a conocer a nuestra comunidad y agradecemos por tu tiempo.
Muchas gracias por tenerme en el programa y para cualquier tipo de ayuda, ahí vamos a estar, así que, como siempre, con nuestra comunidad.